Okay, did you see Susan? Oh, I see Raj. Susan?
Oh, yeah. If I don't...
Lindsay is going to walk around with the right now it's thank you.
I guess it's just this one in here and then big hole. Oh, no, I guess it's both in here. We don't need this.
Good morning. Let's try that again. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to First Parish Brewster. We are a Unitarian Universalist welcoming congregation of people of diverse philosophies and beliefs. people of various cultures and races, sexual orientations, gender identities, abilities, and socioeconomic backgrounds. Whoever you are, wherever you are on your path, may this be a place of rest and restoration on your journey. I'm Reverend Jessica Clay, your worship leader this morning. Happy to be welcoming you to the service today with our worship associate, Lindsay Strauss. Welcome, Lindsay. Kevin Badanis, our music director, and Twinks Hastings, our Lifespan Religious Education director.
And I wanted to introduce you to our new staff member, Danny. You can stand up. After almost 2 years of searching, we found a new childcare provider to partner with Claudia for our nursery program and summer childcare programs. We are so grateful for you, Danny.
Our services are recorded and available on our YouTube channel midweek. And as people are coming in, there are seats on this side of the sanctuary. This side always gets so crowded. But there are seats on this side, and there are plenty of seats in the balcony. If you're up for the balcony, plenty of seats in the balcony. Our services are recorded and available on our YouTube channel midweek. We do ask that all over the age of 4 mask while in our buildings. Please silence your cell phones at this time. We also ask that all wear their name tags or fill out the sticker name tags in an effort to be more welcoming. We also welcome the noises, movement, and mirth that little ones bring to our services. Our services are 60 to 75 minutes long. If you need to leave before then, you're welcome to use the doors at the rear of the sanctuary. For those of you who may be first-time visitors this morning, welcome. Are there any first-time visitors who would like to introduce themselves? Any brave souls? You don't have to. Okay. Okay. Welcome if you don't want to intro yourself. We're glad you're here. Welcome on this morning, which we make sacred by our presence together. And a big welcome to the people streaming. Let's give them a wave. We're glad you're here as well. In community news announcements, if you are interested in becoming a member of First Parish Brewster, you can get more information and sign the membership book today after the service out on the plaza. Look for the table with the big welcome sign. Paula Lieb from our membership committee. Paula, where are you? Paula's raising her hand in the back, is available to answer any questions you might have. I know there are a couple of people who are planning on signing the membership book today. Would you like to introduce yourselves to the congregation? Lindsay will come around with a mic. You don't have to, but we've got 2 in the back and 2 in front of them. Perfect.
Good morning. My name is Ken Hill, and this is my wife, Leslie Rennie Hill. And we have moved from Portland, Oregon. And it's interesting, today is the final day for Reverend Bill Sinkford's presentation there, so we'll listen to that in a Zoom this afternoon.
Hi. I guess I've already been introduced, so. But we did think that since the GA is in Portland, we know that Jessica knows Portland well, but we do too, if anybody's going or has questions. And we're really excited to join this church.
Thank you, Ken and Leslie. Welcome. Right in front of them. 2 rows in front.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Harvey. This is my husband, Bob Spencer. We're from Portland, Connecticut. We've been visiting since it's been open again, and it's been a really wonderful experience.
Absolutely. It's nice to be here.
Thank you, Lindsay and Bob. Welcome. In other community news announcements, we still do need more volunteers for the thrift store Thursday, Friday, and Saturday mornings, 2.5 hours a week, either every week or every other week. Oh, I don't know why I put this back on, habit. Additionally, we need people to sign up to bring flowers for our Sunday services like these You don't have to do, I mean, this is over and above. But to bring, yes. Where are you? Huh? Okay. Kristen, where are you? Up there in the balcony. These are from Kristen. So everybody's getting applause this morning. So if you want to sign up to bring flowers for one of our Sunday services, please look for the sign out on the plaza. And additionally, we're doing sign-ups today after the service for volunteers for our children and youth ministry program. We do need volunteers. How many volunteers do we need? 42. All those people who said that were in the service last week. That was a test. So we need 42 volunteer spots. Now we have some filled, but we do need the rest of them filled to support our children and youth ministries, which is so thriving here and part of our goals of being a multi-generational community. So if you're looking for find a way to connect, please find Twinks after the service, or can our CYM committee members raise their hands? You can find one of them as well. There's a couple up in the balcony as well. Great, thank you. Next Sunday, you're invited to join Worship Associate Chuck Ross and I as we lead a service on Juneteenth. Join us for a service where we reflect on our history and what it calls us to now. All are welcome at 10 a.m. And after the service today, you're welcome to join us for a brief time with coffee. Brief, because what do we have at 11:30? Who's excited? All right. Our annual meeting at 11:30. We want to begin promptly, so go outside, get a refreshment, or take care of any needs you might have, and then come back and join us this is for members. And so, welcome to the service today. It is so good to be together.
This morning, we celebrate the gifts of community. It is a topic that has special meaning for me, for it was 20 years ago this past Memorial Day weekend that I began my transition. I came to First Parish Brewster for the very first time and found in this community my spiritual home. In the words of Gift to be Simple, what I discovered that sunny May morning was a place that was just right for me, where I was welcomed into a valley of love and delight, and where, freed of having to be ashamed of who and what I was, I could come round right. In the 2 decades since, what the universe offered me that weekend, and which I accepted with immense gratitude, was a gift of community that has kept on giving in so many ways. A blessed community that has sustained me and so many of you through good times. The joy of celebrating marriage equality with one of the plaintiffs' couples that helped make it possible. Our return one magical Christmas Eve to this beautiful and lovingly restored sanctuary. Bad times, elections that put in power people in power who had values which didn't align with ours. Deaths that shook us to our core. 2+ years of pandemic. As well as, of course, changes that inevitably come in any church community. Minister and staffing changes, and births and deaths, celebrated in naming ceremonies and memorials. What held us together? What kept us coming back through all the ups and downs of the last 20 years? For me, it's simple. It was this community. It was sharing tears of joy and of sadness together. It was facing change, adversity, and challenges, both in this church and in the wider world, together. So as we light our chalice this morning and enter into worship, and as we celebrate the flower communion, let us think about the gifts this community has bestowed on us over the course of our time here. The unique gifts we each contribute to this community, and to continue to see in this religious society a place where every seeker in covenant can blossom and be held as our whole, authentic selves. A place where love lives within and between us. A community which empowers us to appreciate ourselves and the world as sacred. Where we can enjoy the gift to be simple and the gift to be free.
Our first hymn this morning is in the gray hymnal, number 65, The Sweet June Days. Please rise in body and or spirit.
The sweet June days are come again, once more the glad earth yields its golden wealth of ripening grain and breath of clover fields, and deepening shade of summer woods, and glow of summer air, and ringing thoughts and happy moods of love and joy and prayer. The sweet June days are come again, the birds are on the wing, bright anthems in their merry strain, unconsciously they sing. Oh, how our cup brims with good these happy summer days. For all the joys of field and wood, we lift our song of praise.
Please remain standing for the affirmation.
We believe in love.
Love is the doctrine
We believe in truth. We believe in helping others. We believe in the sacredness of life.
So I don't know how many of you know this, but before I had this job as a farmer for 10 years in Sandwich, and depending on your metrics of farming, I was either a really good farmer or a really bad farmer. Because here's the thing, I really love plants, all plants. So some people call some kind of plants weeds. Not me. I love all plants. So I had tomatoes, dandelions, crabgrass, cucumbers, squash, clover, everybody, all together in community. Some people think that's bad farming. I think it's community. I didn't like so much that we had a chicken coop, but then chickens sort of stop laying eggs when they're like 4 or 5. So my chicken coop was just kind of a geriatric nursing home for chickens and male chickens. So, depending on your metrics, good farmer, bad farmer. But at that time, I was really into Johnny Seed catalogs. Anyone get your Johnny Seed catalogs? Yeah. So they come through the door, I pour over them. So the story today is about a young woman who got her Johnny Seeds catalog, and she saw in there these beautiful flowers. She thought, I want to grow these flowers at my house. They were the most beautiful flowers you could ever imagine. So she ordered the seeds and the soil and the special tools to grow this most beautiful flower. And then you have to wait for your Johnny Seed box to arrive, and it's the worst, like 3 weeks of your life. You're waiting for your seeds to come. Finally they came, and she walked around her yard, looked for the most beautiful spot. So excited to grow this most beautiful flower. And she set up the soil, planted the flower, watered it, gave it all the nutrients that it needed, and nurtured this plant. And it grew, and it grew, and it grew, and there were vines everywhere, all up the side of her house, all over the fence, but no flowers. The disappointment, she's looking at the catalog, looking at the plant. Where are the flowers? And the disappointment grew and grew. And as the plant grew, the disappointment grew. No flowers. Half the season had gone by. Still no flowers. So one day, it's like, I have had enough. So she comes out with her clippers, ready to pull down the vines. And as she was about to chop, her neighbor said, "Stop! What are you doing? This is the most beautiful flowers I have ever seen." And the woman said, "What do you mean?" And her neighbor said, "Come into my yard." So she went through to her neighbor's backyard, and all the vines that had grown over, there were the most beautiful flowers you'd ever seen. And so, the moral of this story is, sometimes we labor hard and we don't see the fruits of our labor, but they are there, just on the other side of the fence. And I like to think that about my gardening. I hope that the kids that I garden with are passionate about their weeds also. And with that, we are going to leave for our summer program. So all of the kids who want to join us, we're going to leave out this door.
Thank you, Twinks. Our meditation and prayer today is by Thomas Rhodes, and it's the Flower Communion Blessing. And so some of you have brought your flowers up at the beginning. Some of you still have them in your hands. If you have them in your hands, I invite you to ponder them. And if you don't, to just gaze upon the beautiful flowers that are present here, or cast your eyes down or close them. Within this room, we hold the resurrection of the world. Transient and imperfect, these blossoms are still gifts of infinite value. Like ourselves, too often we seek permanence and perfection, resisting change, unable to see our shortcomings. We become caught up in the petty issues and routine activities of our daily lives. But may these flowers serve as a reminder as they allow themselves to open to the heavens. For despite their imperfections, they still have integrity. And though they are transient, they contain the seeds of transcendence, like ourselves. Let us then also open ourselves to mystery and wonder, fretting not about small mishaps or even great misfortune, for the resurrection of the world is at our fingertips. The resurrection lies within us. Let us keep a moment of silent appreciation together.
The Flower Communion by Reginald Zottoli. The Flower Communion service was created by Norbert Čapek, who founded the Unitarian Church of the Czech Republic. He introduced this special service to that church on June 4th, 1923. For some time, he felt the need for some symbolic ritual that would bind people more closely together. The format had to be one that would not alienate any who had forsaken other religious traditions. The traditional Christian communion service with bread and wine was unacceptable to members of his congregation because of their strong reaction against the Catholic faith. So he turned to the native beauty of his countryside for elements of a communion that would be genuine to them. This simple service was the result. It was such a success that it was held yearly just before the summer recess of the church.
The flower communion was brought to the United States in 1940 and introduced to the members of the Cambridge, Massachusetts church by Dr. Čapek's wife, Maya Čapek. The Czech-born Maya had met Norbert Čapek in New York City while he was studying for his PhD, and it was at her urging that Norbert left the Baptist ministry and turned to Unitarianism. The Čapeks returned to the Czech Republic in 1921 and established the dynamic liberal church in Prague. Maya Čapek was ordained in 1926. It was during her tour of the United States that Maya introduced the flower communion, which had been developed in the Prague church at the Unitarian Church in Cambridge. Unfortunately, Maya was unable to return to Prague due to the outbreak of World War II. And it was not until the war was over that Norbert Čapek's death in a Nazi concentration camp was revealed. From this beginning, the service has spread to many of our Unitarian Universalist congregations and has been adapted along the way.
People were asked to bring a flower of their choice, either from their own gardens or from the field or roadside. When they arrived at church, a large vase stood waiting in the vestibule, attended by 2 young members of the church school. Each person was asked to place their own flower in the vase. This signified that it was by their own free will they joined with the others. The vase that contained all the flowers was a symbol of the united church fellowship.
The young attendants helped with the arrangement of the bouquet. Later, they carried the vase up to the front of the auditorium and placed it.
No 2 people are alike, yet each has a contribution to make. Together, the different flowers form a beautiful bouquet. Our common bouquet would not be the same without the unique addition of each individual flower, and thus it is with our church community, it would not be the same without each and every one of us.
This month, our theme is nurturing beauty. And so you are invited to bring your flowers up and put them in vases or set them on the table. And for those watching, you're invited to reflect on these expressions of beauty as a representative of the beauty all around us in this community. So you may come up now. If you would prefer not to come up, you can either give your flower to your neighbor to bring up for you or raise your hand and ushers, I didn't run this by you in advance, and an usher will bring them up for you. So you may come up, and we're going to go in a counterclockwise fashion. Counterclockwise, yes. So you're not taking flowers yet, you're just bringing your flowers. So if we can have people scoot up, we're getting a little bit of a log jam to make a little room for people to make their way back to their seats. Thank you. Is there anyone who hasn't brought their flower up who would like to? Thank you for all of these beautiful representations of this community. They are resplendent from this view, let me tell you. Each week we have the practice of splitting our offertory plate. Half of what is collected goes to the work of First Parish Brewster. The other half goes to a community organization nominated by one of you. This week, this morning's offering is a split plate with the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, also known as the UUSC. The UUSC is a nonprofit, non-sectarian organization advancing human rights together with an international community of grassroots partners and advocates. They focus their work on intersecting roots of injustice to defend the rights at risk due to criminalization and systemic oppression of people based on their identity. They support self-determination and defend the rights of people displaced due to climate, conflict, or economic hardships, and they respond to humanitarian crises as partners with people whose access to aid is most limited. Could you all repeat that back to me? They do a lot of good work in the world, basically. So however you choose to give today, we thank you for your generosity. The offering will now be gratefully received.
Although this is the last Sunday of choir for the choir season, you are welcome to join us this summer for our Sunday-only choir. If you don't have Wednesday rehearsal available, we'll let you know when those dates are. Come at 9 a.m., sing with the choir. We also, on Wednesday nights, will have voice classes and music classes as well.
We will walk together, you and find a way to justice rising like the sun. Everyone, come along and we will find a way to justice rising like the sun.
congregation in Tennessee. This song is to honor the fact that he was closeted for most of his life until the very end of his life. And then he had the courage and strength to come out of the closet with his church community around him. For him and for all of the people out there that, through being a part of our congregations, know that we are better together than apart. We will walk together, we will sing together, we will move together, we will dance together in all of our differences. And so now is the time when you are invited to come up and take a flower, take a representative of this beautiful community around you to take home with you and to remember all the ways that we are different and the same within this community. Now, if you did not bring a flower, you are still welcome here because I went to the grocery store this morning just for you all. And I don't want to take all these flowers home. So you are invited up. If you don't want to come up, you can ask your neighbor to get you a flower. If you see a couple of small flowers, go ahead. There's plenty of flowers for everyone. But we're going to do this a little more coordinated to have it go a little more smoothly. We're going to start with this side first. I remember that it's been a while since we did interactive services. So we're going to do this side counterclockwise first, starting with the back pews and moving up. And then I will tell this side when it is time. So you may come up counterclockwise and take a flower home with you now. I mean, don't leave yet, but. And we can start with the balcony on this side, and then the last pews, you can start coming up. So the back pews, you can start coming up on this side. Take the whole thing, Sandy. Take the whole thing. Oh, you no, Thank you. Is there anyone who didn't get a flower that wants one? Kevin, come on down. There you go. Perfect. Perfect. Take a vase too, Kevin. I was noticing how many people were taking the smallest flowers. So those of you that went for the big ones, I celebrate that. And those of you that went for the small ones, next time I encourage you to take a big bouquet. The resurrection of the world is at your fingertips in these flowers. May you remember that when you take them home and gaze upon them in the days to come. And so, dear ones, we have reached the end of this church year together. What a year, huh? I know, it's like, right? And the end of year 5 of my ministry with you. We can cheer that, yes. We have lived through 2+ years of the pandemic. We have lived through unimaginable loss. You all became pros at Zoom. Cheers that, come on. Even though you're not a huge fan. Your staff became pros at making so many videos. So I just want to take a little moment and honor the ways that your staff has gone above and beyond, not just this year, not just these 2 years of the pandemic, but during the 5 years of my ministry. That their jobs have grown and changed and that they've had to adapt over and over again. And that they were tired before this pandemic even started. The thing is, with our congregation size, for congregations that are between 300 and 400 people, they're at the size where they often need more staff to operate, but finding the funding for that is very difficult. They can often benefit from having 2 ministers on staff, from having more office people on staff, from having more paid people within an RE program. But as we all know, and finance and the board know all too well, affording that is a whole different matter. So in the 300 to 400 range, staff is often stretched out to their max. And so we're going to take a little moment to thank our staff that are here this morning, also acknowledging the staff that aren't present. So if you see other staff members out and about in your days, be sure to thank them. But let's give a clap for the staff that are here. They had no idea I was going to do that. And now I would like Karina Stroh to come down to the chancel, please. She's not in trouble. Come on now. Now, once again, she has had to adapt this morning. Speaking of staff adapting, because our new AV person, Ricky Bates, was unable to be here this morning. So Karina has had to adapt yet again, but we're going to trust that the streaming is going to be okay for just a moment while she's here on the chancel. So those of you who don't know, this is Karina Stroh, our Admin and Finance Director. So 1 year ago, your board approved Karina's request for sabbatical. She has been here for 7 years and requested a 4-month sabbatical, a time of rest, a time of study, a time of renewal. And a sabbatical is a time of rest. The word comes from Sabbath, this concept that you worked for 6 days and then you rested on the 7th. It's recommended that staff take sabbaticals between years 4 and 7 of their service. It's recommended to prevent burnout. It's recommended to nurture and care for our religious professionals that do so much. The Unitarian Universalist Association recommends 1 month per year of service be accrued for professional level staff. And so yes, she could have asked for and taken 7 months, but she's only taken 4. Not that she's not owed those other 3, and her sabbatical doesn't start until the beginning of July. She will return in October. We have hired someone to do November, excuse me, I can do math. I just keep thinking October because I'm already ready for your return. We have hired someone to do 15 hours of her work. Sue Weber, thank you. But remember that she does 35 hours of work every week. So remember that. And as you did when I was gone, maybe try to hold things that aren't that important until a month or 2 after her return. And so we would like to give you a blessing today as you prepare to go on sabbatical. Congregation, would you please rise in body or spirit and raise your hands up towards Karina. Karina, you're invited to place your hands on your heart and receive. You can close your eyes if you'd rather do it that way or keep them open. I also did not warn her that this was going to happen. And so, dear Karina, we bless you during this time of rest. We pray that it may be a time of renewal, a time of sinking your hands into the earth and remembering who you are, remembering how loved you are, and filling your well in all the ways that nourish you. May we, the congregation and staff, including the minister, not text you if they need to figure things out. May we all respect that you are really gone, even though we know you're still on Cape. May we respect that and give you space and know that we can figure all the things out together, or it can wait. May you connect with your family, with your community, with the people who ground you, who bring joy to your life. May you connect to your calling and to the interdependent web of which we are all a part. May you have moments of spiritual practice, moments of quiet that connect you to something larger than yourself, God, or that sacred presence, or the love that holds us all. May you not be concerned with productivity, with producing something. Instead, use this as a time to listen to what each day asks of you, so that when you return and you have a whole lot of people asking things of you, you bring that groundedness back with you, you bring that love, that centeredness back with you to the work that you do for this congregation, to your ministry within this congregation. May you know during this time that you are deeply loved and valued, and that we will wait with open arms to welcome you back in November. Let the people say amen. Amen. Okay, we have a little bit more. Are you doing okay? I know it's going to go over 11, but we're going to be okay. So as we end year 5 together, reflecting on how far we have come together, how much we have done, how many knots we have untangled, how different our bouquet looks now than it did 5 years ago. My clergy coach told me that the first 5 years of a ministry is the whole church rearranging itself around the new minister. There is this unsettling and then resettling, that people who were in leadership will move back, people who weren't in leadership will move forward, people will leave the church, people will join. The church will reorient itself around the new minister, and that happens in those first 5 years. And once you've made it through those 5 years, you have made it through that great unsettling and resettling, that great disorientation and reorientation. As I reflect on all the work we have done together over these last 5 years, I want to remind you of some things that were said at my ordination and installation in that first year. So for those who are new, you're just getting a little history lesson this morning. And for those who are there, this will hopefully jog your memory. Some of you may remember that Reverend Nancy MacDonald Ladd gave the charge to the minister at my ordination and installation. And she told this story about her daughter wanting to do a project that involved yarn. And her son was left with a ball of yarn for 5 minutes alone at the tender age of 4. And you know what happened after that? It became a tangled, knotted mess. And so she, the fierce mama that she was, took it and slowly began to unravel it for her daughter. It took her 2.5 hours. But she talked about how the work had a rhythm to it. She said, in that knotted mess, everything but everything was a part of everything else. And she talks about the way to untangle a massive knot of yarn is to shake it up, to agitate it, to loosen it. She said, you try to make a way where there is no way. You shake it, you tug, you push, and you pull until everything that's bound up in tight messes. And then another 6 inches of mission, oops, she meant yarn, frees itself for you and the people to carry on the sacred project. She talked about that then you had to try something else for a while, to set it down and tend to it in gentle and plodding ways. She talked about coaxing it and being so gentle with it until it wouldn't loosen anymore. And then what do? You pick it up and you shake it again. She reminded us that you take breaks, you ask for help when your patience is wearing thin, and then she gave me a tiny icon of Our Lady, Untangler of Knots. She charged me that the knots of this congregation were not mine to untangle alone, and I must admit it took me a couple of years to realize that. During those first couple of years of ministry with you, I took on a lot of the untangling of knots on my own because of my own conflict avoidance. I took charge in a board meeting when I thought it was going awry because I didn't want conflict to occur. I met individually with congregants who had complaints instead of pulling in leaders to share the untangling of knots with them. I offered my opinion too quickly to staff members instead of asking them first what they thought we should do when a knot arose. Y'all remember? And then my clergy coach, Reverend Jake Morrill, advised me to empower the leaders of this congregation a little more, to empower the staff a little more, to let go of the untangling and share it with others a couple of years ago. So now I'm trying to withhold my opinions a little more, although my face sometimes gives me away, to let go of my need for control as well, which has resulted in a strength of leadership, a strength of staff, and it was all put to the test this year when I had to abruptly leave earlier than anyone had planned due to being hospitalized. And yet all of you dug in together to help untangle the knots that arose. You took care and helped each other to further the mission of this congregation, even though your leader was not available. You supported the work of Reverend Brand coming in and helping to hold the space, and you supported the staff, which has worked so hard not only this past year, but throughout all the years of the pandemic and before, worked so hard to help further the mission of this congregation, which is... That was a total test. You all were like, wait a minute, she's asking something of us? Opening hearts, growing souls, and turning love into justice. Let's say it again. Opening hearts, growing souls, turning love into justice. Okay, next time with a little more energy, but I'll let it pass for now. So as Reverend Nancy was wrapping up her charge to me, she said she was going to begin with a charge to the congregation, even though Reverend Rob Eller Isaacs was coming up to do the same thing. She said to you all, do not pretend that there are not messy entanglements. They are in all of our congregations. And the work of pulling mission out of those entanglements is the work you must do together each and every day. There is but one thread that goes back long before my ministry that will continue long after my ministry ends. She said that since it's one thread, there's not one action that arises without consequence, and some of the actions that arise are messy and painful and complicated. She said this congregation would be wise to let me shake the knots loose and tend to you again and again, and many of you have done just this with me and with each other over these last 5 years. And after the charge from Reverend Nancy, you installed me as your 33rd minister. You covenanted with me, making the following promise.
Jessica, we, the members of First Parish Brewster Unitarian Universalist, have come to know you and respect you. We are opening our hearts with you and to you and placing our trust in you as our minister. We ask that you be open and trusting with us and to partner with us in love, shared purpose, and responsibility. Installation is a covenantal relationship. As such, we will bring our best selves to this relationship, striving to be open and kind, trusting and transparent in all our interactions. We promise to try to be direct in our communication, slow to judge, and quick to forgive, seeing the best in each other. We will share in creating the vision of this church as a multi-generational community of inclusion, support, and justice for each other and in the world around us.
Thank you, Susan. And then I made these promises to you. I said, I pledge to work towards the mission and vision of First Parish Brewster together with all of you, a vision of shared ministry in which we embrace joy, try new things, and honor our history. I promise to be your spiritual guide through life's joys and sorrows, to work to gain your trust and to speak the truth as I see it with kindness and compassion. I promise to nurture a sustainable ministry built on direct and open communication, a commitment to my own spiritual practices, and a deep commitment to this liberal faith. And then Reverend Rob Eller Isaacs came up and charged you all and said, do not attribute the Renaissance that is to come solely to your minister. Ministers, even great ministers, come and go, but the ministry of the church is the responsibility of the church. The ministry of the church is why we gather. What connects you all is the larger purpose of this congregation and of this faith. He said, at our best, we understand the churches of the world to serve purposes far beyond our own individual needs, far beyond our own immediate moods. And then he asked the board to come down. How many people in the board remember that? Because they didn't know they were going to be asked to come down. They had to stand down in front, and he said, history teaches us that religious communities tend to thrive once they move beyond their tendencies towards their own self-absorption and reactivity and ground our lives in mission. He then reminded the congregation of our mission, which is better. He said, your new minister can help you to live into this mission of who it is you say you want to be, what it is you say you want to do in the world, but first, and then he made the board turn around and face the congregation, you must trust each other. You must trust each other. And so if you trust the person sitting next to you in the pew, the person you're electing to your board, your staff, that clarity and mission work is directly related to the level of trust in a congregation. And so being clear about whose work was whose is something that we focused on those first couple of years, because with more clarity comes more trust. And that covenant on the back of your order of service, that covenant is about trust, about how you want to be together. 1 year ago, you passed that covenant to try it out, to try it on together. This was part of continuing to build trust within this congregation. And after he talked about the importance of building trust, he said to the board and congregation, the trick here is that nobody gets to leave. You have to stay engaged when the going gets tough and to take good care of each other. That together you will live out the larger love that you hope to serve. But of course, here we are 5 years later, and some people have left. Sometimes the untangling of the knots means that people say, this isn't my congregation anymore, and that's okay. And with the people who've left, the new ones have come. And some of you have stayed through the untangling of knots. I was reminded of one person last week who told me they've been here for 40 years, not just 30. And so whether you've been here one Sunday, maybe this is your first, or your 2000th, whether you're still figuring out whether this is the place for you, I want you to know that I'm glad you are here. You are a part of this community reflected in these flowers. And if this is the community that you decide to join as our new members are joining, if this is the community that you still say yes to, even after we have disappointed you, even after we have broken your heart and you have returned, I want you to know we're glad you are here and that there is a place for you here. I want you to know that we are all in this together, that I've worked to build trust with your leaders, with each of you these past 5 years, and I haven't always done it the right way, but I've done it with integrity at my core and with a remembering of that covenant that I made to you on that day to work towards our mission and vision together. And I will continue making this promise as we move into year 6 together, as you prepare to vote at our annual meeting, as we dream big about our possibilities for what we can do together this next year. Together within this community, we untangle the knots, we tend to each other. We are all different, like the flowers in your hands, and yet same in that we come here because we are hungry for something more than ourselves. We are hungry to connect to something outside of ourselves that nurtures our sense of compassion and care for each other, that is a balm to our hearts when they are breaking, that remind us there is a love that holds all when all seems lost. This is the work that we are here for. This is our work, dear ones. Thank you for saying yes to me and each other, and for the ways you will say yes in the future. Thank you for honoring the covenant you make with each other that you made with me on that day. Thank you for staying. Are you ready to keep moving forward, opening hearts, growing souls, and turning love into justice? Yes. Amen.
The roots of the song De Colores can be traced back to 16th century Mexico. This song was updated with lyrics in the 1940s and has been adopted by the United Farm Workers. Please rise in body and or spirit as we sing our closing song, number 305, De Colores. First 3 verses and then the verse en español.
Around
Will you turn and face each other? So one side face the middle, the other side face the middle. Find someone, make eye contact with them, give them a little wave. Our benediction today is our worship associate's words, Lindsay Strauss. May we continue to see in this religious society a place where every seeker in covenant can blossom and be held as our whole authentic selves, a place where love lives within and between us in an interdependent web of life, as a community which empowers us to appreciate ourselves and the world as sacred. Amen. Okay, we're going to take 15 minutes, so we're going to start the meeting 5 minutes late. It's going to be okay. 15 minutes, but please be back in here if you're attending the meeting in 15 minutes.